In this film of mine, I want to be a Jedi, I want there to be battle droids, and I want there to be clone troopers, and I want it to be set in a location that is preferably not my backyard. But with just 24 hours on the clock, I don't have enough time to put myself in a full 3D environment, nor some cool Venator hallway, because that would take hours and hours to render. So I need to figure something out. Let's start with filming. So I put on my Jedi costume, and with my lightsaber that I got sent by N-Sabers, I filmed my scene. Now you're probably wondering, where's the green screen? James, you literally just said that you're putting yourself in an environment that is not your backyard. Yes, I'm still planning to do that. The thing with my green screen is that it's just one of these, little pop-out ones. So it fits me all right inside, but when I'm a Jedi, I'm going to be swinging my arms around, so I'd have to rotoscope myself anyway. So if I'm rotoscoping myself out completely, is there any point to the green screen? No. If you're familiar with Photoshop, you know that there's a tool in there where you can literally click a single button and it isolates the subject of the image, gets hair detail and everything. Now this works well for photos, I want to use it for my video. There's a YouTube channel out there called Creative Twins who have made a script for Photoshop which automates the entire process. So I'll link to their channel and that video, go check it out. It's really cool. Whilst Photoshop is going through masking out my footage, I'm going to find my 3D models of battle droids, clones, and get their animations. I'll be using this Phase 1 Clone Trooper 3D model from Sketchfab. Also from Sketchfab, I'll be using this Battle Droid Commander. And yes, I'll be using this Battle Droid Commander 3D model for every battle droid in the scene. I'm aware that doesn't make sense canonically. I apologize. Now I can upload these 3D models to a website called Mixamo and get myself some free animations. What I'm mainly looking for is animations and poses where they're holding a rifle, so I can, have them hold a blaster, and then death animations. Once I've found them, I can download them as an FBX file, which I can import straight into Blender. So for the background environment, I'm going to be very quick and dirty about it. So for this background environment, I'm going to be very quick about it. So I'm going to go to polyhaven.com and find myself a HDRI which matches a similar lighting conditions to how I filmed. In my footage there's a nice blue sky and the sun is hitting the left side of my face. So this HDRI from Polyhaven will suit it pretty good. So I can download that, open up my 3D program of choice, which is Blender, which is also free, in case you were wondering, but you probably already knew that. And in the shading tab, I will connect it to the world shader. Yeah. What I can do now is add a virtual camera to my scene. I'll set the focal length to 64mm because that is the same focal length that I shot my footage at. In the background images, I'll switch it to movie clip and add in the masked out footage of myself as the background. Now I just have to align the camera to roughly the same angle that I actually filmed my footage at, and then twist the HDRI around until the sun is in the same position as it was in my footage. And there we go, the shot's all lined up. It also does help to add in a human scale reference 3D model, just to help make things easier. Now I can import in the various FBX animations and position them in the scene where I want them to be. To retime the animations, I can just go down to the timeline and drag the keyframes across to where I want the animation to start. Obviously now here, the model is just frozen before the actual Mixamo animation starts, so I need to add in my own keyframes. All I have to do is select the armature, then go into pose mode, then select the individual bones and just add a bit of extra rotation to them. Here I've got the neck bone selected, go over to the animation tab, switch to the graph editor, then add a noise modifiers to each axis of rotation. I'm going to increase the size of the modifier a lot, but keep the strength really small so the movement is really subtle. I'll do this for a bunch of the other bones until I have a movement that I'm happy with. So to make the droid actually hold the blaster, it's very easy, but it's a bit of an odd process. So what we're going to do is select the armature, go to pose mode, select the wrist bone, which isolates the wrist bone from the rest of the armature, then go back to object mode, select the blaster, then shift select the armature, then Control P and parent to the bone. As you can see, we just parented the blaster to the bone we selected, which was the wrist bone. And now we get to my favorite part of the whole editing process, and that is adding in the blaster fire and the sparks and the scorch marks. And to do that, I'm going to use an add-on that I've talked about many times before. It's called Pew Pew, made by High Ground Animations. It's an amazing add-on and I use it pretty much whenever I do anything Star Wars related, so you should definitely get it. Essentially what I do is add a new emitter, parent it to the blaster, and hit Pew on every frame that I want it to fire. To have the characters get shot, I will add a new emitter, tick this box to get aim assist, then align it to the place where I want it to shoot. Then I just hit Pew and it creates all this sparks, flash and scorch marks. It really is just awesome. Dare I say it, really awesome. I'm currently editing the footage and it really seems like I was paid to say these nice things. I wasn't, I just love the add-on. Anyway. So now I can render everything out so I can bring it into After Effects for the final composite. For each shot, I rendered out 3 separate image sequences. The background, well, technically that's not an image sequence, it's just a single picture. The characters, and then the sparks and the lasers. So back in After Effects, I'll put in my background, the masked footage of myself, and then the laser spark image sequence, and set that to a screen blending mode. Then I will use Video Copilot's free Saber plugin to add in the lightsaber blade. I will also use that same plugin to add in extra laser bolts that I am blocking. Then I will jump to productioncrate.com and get myself some spark hits. And I will overlay these spark hits for when I'm blocking a laser bolt. I'll also add in some smoke plumes, which I also got from Production Crate. I also chucked in this dust explosion from Action VFX. Then I will tie everything together with some film grain and lens dirt. Now, I think that's it. I just remembered I filmed footage of myself looking down at the ground because a thermal detonator rolled at my feet. I don't have a shot of the thermal detonator. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Blender, I'm going to add a new plane, I'm going to give it a texture of dirt from polyhaven.com. Then using a Blender add-on called True Terrain, I'll scatter some grass assets, which matches the grass from the HDRI. Then I'll get a thermal detonator 3D model from Sketchfab once again, throw it in the scene and give it some slight rotation so it looks like it's rolling to a stop, and then render that animation out. Anyway, here is the final scene. Subscribe or you might not wake up tomorrow.